Hello, dear listener. Welcome to episode 24 of the Six Star Business Podcast. I am, as ever, Pete Daly Dixon. That hasn't changed, and neither has the name or the person of my other co-host, Evelyn Clark.
Hello, Pete. How are you today?
I'm super great. I got a big smile on my face. England is through to the final of the Euros, Euro 2020, which is being held in 2021.
Wow.
How cool is that? Yeah, a bit of a nail biter. We went 1-0 down in the first half, brought it back to 1-1, and then we got a penalty in the second half. So it was all to play for, lots of drama, but yeah, really exciting. I don't really follow football, but it's something about these big games. It's the last time we were in a final at a major competition was in 1966 when we won the World Cup. So it's massive for the country. It is absolutely massive.
I bet. And I bet every household was shouting. I'm sure that no matter where you stood around England, there would be a big kind of roar at the point that penalty goal was shot in, right?
Absolutely, because the penalty was actually missed. Harry Kane took the penalty and it was saved, and he scored it on the rebound.
Oh.
So it was like, oh!
Oh my gosh, it would have been a double scream. No, that is brilliant. And talking about a double scream, I would like to get into our guests. Who have we got, Pete?
A double scream. Wow, that's a segue and a half. A scream for James and a scream for Susanne. Yeah, they were awesome. James Brown and Susanne, I guess, on this podcast. Lovely humans and a lovely conversation. I know that you take really good notes after each conversation. What have you got down about this one, just to whet our listeners' appetite?
So such gold from both of them, just their experiences, their journeys. One of the key things that came out of this, James talked about the triple win, and you've got to listen for that. But also, Susanne brought out this concept of the ripples we make in our lives and the community around us, and how it's our responsibility to watch and manage those ripples. And yeah, there was some big truth gold bombs that were dropped. And I just think for just this concept of the ripples was just amazing and beautiful and really rang true for me. And I've been thinking about it ever since.
So there you have it. Episode 24 is yours now to listen to and delight in and enjoy and take notes on and use to help move yourself and your business towards 6 stars.
Yep, absolutely. Go forth, enjoy, and we'll see you on the other side.
And what would an online gathering be without that exciting housekeeping? There's only one thing that Avril and I forgot to say, is in the unlikely event of a fire, you're responsible for getting yourself out of where you are. We can't help you there, I'm afraid.
Thanks, Pete.
But talking about where you are, we're all in different places, obviously. James, where are you? Who are you? How are you? Just give our listeners a bit of an insight into James Brown.
I am born and bred Adelaidean in South Australia. I'll call myself middle-aged. That sounds good. I just ticked over 40. But yeah, I'm happy to be listening in and participating.
Fabulous. Thank you, James. And tell us, so you're still in Adelaide, is that correct?
Yeah, very much so. Sort of set up a bit of a family here, run a couple of businesses here, despite sort of working a bit more broadly thanks to the wonderful world of Zoom. Yeah.
Okay, great. And tell our listeners a little bit more about who you serve or what you do with your time. How do you like to spend your time?
So I love playing around with other people's businesses because they are far more fascinating than my own. At least that's what I find. I think it's almost just an element of procrastination is I'd much rather work on other people's businesses than do my own work. It's always a bit more exciting. So yeah, my background is as a motelier, actually. I very much fell into that business, it being a family business. And a few years back, I decided to shift to a different bit of tangent and go and do business coaching, because that was what I was sort of doing anyway with family, friends, anyone that would listen. And I figured if I'm going to do it, I may as well get paid for it. So that's where I've been sort of heading down the last few years.
Great. Thank you. Very cool. And Susanne, what about yourself? Where are you and who are you? And yeah, tell us a bit about yourself, please, for our listeners.
Thanks, So I'm in Brisbane, the northwest of Brisbane, at a place near Sanford. So very much living a semi-rural sort of lifestyle. Love to sort of get out and hear all the birds song, and not in the centre of the city, which is fantastic. Now I don't have to catch the train in or drive in to the city every day. So I am older than James, and you'll be able to guess that because I was a public servant for more than 30 years. So I would have had to start when I was 10 to be younger than James. So I worked in health and human services for very many years, and in some fairly complex and challenging. My life changed fairly dramatically during the first COVID lockdown here in Brisbane, where I was told that my job wouldn't exist in the way that it used to. And I've used that opportunity as a gift to really go out and decide how I want to serve the world and who I believe I can help. And so I'm now working as a consultant on organisational strategy, but also executive coaching business leaders. So James might help people with their financials and those sorts of other types of business results. I very much work on people's thoughts and behaviours so that they can actually get really great results in their business or in the company that they're working for.
Wonderful. And when you're not doing that, how does Susanne occupy her time outside of work?
Well, the last year I've been spending a lot of time out landscaping on our place, because my dream is to set up a small group day retreat here. And so we've been completely dug out our dam, and I've been planting hundreds of plants and repainting the house and doing lots of exciting things like that.
Fabulous.
Wonderful.
I look forward to hearing about that as it unfolds.
Well, you look forward to hearing about it. I look forward to going on one of those retreats. It sounds amazing.
I'm already there, Pete. I'm just up the road.
Well, we have a lovely dam with a nice deck, lots of reflections. Come down, an owl comes and lands on a tree beside you on dusk.
Aww.
And you can just hear it hooting. It's fantastic. Yeah.
Wow.
Beautiful.
It sounds like a 6-star life, which kind of is a segue into the topic of conversation for today, which is what is it about 6-star business for both of you, which grabbed your attention and held your interest long enough to come on this here podcast with Av and me and have a conversation about it. Susanne, I'll ask you first. What is it about the concept of 6-star business which is engaging you?
So I've been trying to think about this in terms of what it is. And I know 5-star, you would expect that all your expectations have been met. You might go that extra mile. But for me, a 6-star business is about leaving whoever you're interacting with better off than when they first came in contact with you. And it's actually really listening and anticipating and offering things before people need to ask. For me, that's very much, it's more than just going beyond what was expected. It's actually, I use the phrase teaching people how to fish, because I would like to know that when I've finished working with somebody, they might not need me anymore because they've developed a whole new set of capabilities that enable them to go on and thrive in a way that they couldn't have before they had an interaction with my business. So to me, it's really about, particularly if you're in a service business, leaving people better off than when you first came in contact with them, and in a way that's sustainable.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. And James, I'm really fascinated to hear your thoughts and answer to that same question.
Well, I think there's obviously a few elements, but as a sort of a foundation, I think there has to be the triple win in terms of there has to be a win for the provider, a win for the customer, and a win for the community on the whole, because it's 2021. That's what we should be thinking about. That's what we should have been thinking about for the last decade or so, really. So that's an essential element. But for me, it's not necessarily what a business might be providing today, but it's about how that's come to be and what's happening tomorrow. I'm very much fixated on continuous improvement, and it's just the blood that flows through my veins, that how I like to do things, and that's what fascinates me. That's what engages me. That's why I went into sort of a different career, business coaching, and helping people develop their businesses, is because unless you're improving things, then what's the point? Just standing still just seems so boring. So developing what's going to be next, how can we improve from that? So even if you had an amazing interaction with a customer and you really left them better off, how then are you going to maybe replicate that next time? Or I like the simple approach of what worked, what didn't, what's next? And I did that with one of my team members today. What worked, what didn't, what's next? And it's a really simple way to assess things without having to get sort of weighed down to really analysing it. It's very simple. What worked? Oh, this was okay, and that person got this out of that. Okay, well, what didn't? Oh, I could have been a bit quicker or communicate a bit better. Well, what's next? Oh, and it could be something relating, or it could be something completely different. So just building that into how you do things is, super important to the way I approach business.
That's really interesting. It's interesting for a couple of reasons. One is Av and I have just recorded the intro for the episode, which is going out today. No, Friday.
Friday.
I'm editing it today. It's going out Friday. And it came up on that episode, it's something you touched on there, James, about how do you ensure that, or, even for use the S word, how do you systemize, I guess, in a way, that 6-star experience, that so somebody has a great experience. How do you make sure that it's not a one-off?
Yeah. And I think, you said systemize there. And I think, particularly when I think about, let's say someone offering a 6-star service, and you can think of some of the crazy hotels in Dubai that they call themselves a 6-star hotel, and I'm sure they offer stuff that is really exceptional. But I see the bigger businesses as having that major flaw of being too big and inherently lacking the ability to be agile. And so a smaller business can be systemized and be able to entrench in how people do things, these best practices, but also balance that with having the flexibility to just change tact on the fly to make sure that person really gets what they feel like they wanted in terms of when they approached you and they had in their mind. Trying to meet people's expectations, I'm always a big fan of under-promising and over-delivering. But then again, you're dealing with people, so who knows what they really expected when they engaged you.
Is that a case of trying to figure out what their expectations are up front? Is that part of the whole creating that journey or that promise or the process or the experience?
I think just going back to, we're dealing with humans, and people, they might change their mind what they expected. Maybe they saw another customer experiencing something and go, you know what? Well, actually, I want that. I know I said I want this, but I want that. Like, I always try and aspire when I'm, particularly for much higher engagement or more expensive services or products that I might buy, I try and be a perfect customer. And it's very selfishly minded. I want to do that to make sure I get the best result for myself. But I find that people, if you are trying to be a perfect customer, then you're facilitating the person providing whatever product or service to you to do their job to the best of their abilities. And so, that, again, going back to the triple win, that helps facilitate that. So I guess doing your own research is one thing, but, again, we're human, we're agile, we might change our mind. It's just the nature of the beast.
So is it very much about, because I've been thinking about it, how do you have that really personalized experience? So if you're a business providing any sort of a service or a product, it's not being rigid. I really like what you were saying about flexibility and really getting into that customer perspective, but actually looking beneath the surface in terms of what is that need or desire or problem that the customer has, and how can you actually tweak what you are doing to actually help them not just have your product or your service, but really meet that need, desire, or address that problem for them.
So going beneath the surface.
Yes. So actually having more of a relationship with your customer. You think of some of the really exceptional, I can think of some of the really exceptional client experiences or customer experiences I've had. And it really plays on that whole idea, James, that you mentioned about community and connection and understanding what people's needs are and how do you use, you might know them, they're down at Burleigh, they're a fashion design company of designers. They're called Lena and Fleur, and they have this massive Facebook following and private community group, and they actually use that community to actually feed their whole design and client service process. And if you've been involved in that for some period of time, you can actually see how they've actually really connected and engaged with their customer base. They've really understood what their needs, their desires, and their problems are, and really shifted everything that they do to respond to that particular community. So I would probably think of them as a 6-star business in terms of all of the experiences that I've personally had with them and how they make you feel through that whole process as well.
I think there's another side of that coin, though, which is when we talk about, customizing to suit the needs of the customer. I remember chatting many years ago with a friend, and she's almost a hyper introvert. And when I was talking with her about, let's say, the check-in experience at a hotel, she said she was talking about she wishes she could just tick a box to have people not engage with her, because she really just wants to check in with a minimum of fuss and then go to her room to do whatever, to move on with whatever she needs to move on with. In the same way that some, I guess, massage places, you can tick whether you want your masseuse to be chatty or to be quiet. And it's all about being fit for purpose and trying to match the demands of people. So some businesses might inherently be really highly engaged with their customers, but that might not be what that particular customer wants and what they perceive to be a 6-star experience.
That's a good point. And that kind of makes me want to go back to what you said earlier, James, about you being a perfect customer. So in the example that you just gave of your friend that wants to just check in and not talk to anyone at the hotel, how does she be a perfect customer?
She really doesn't
hotel?
That's just the nature she is. But I guess I'd distinguish between a really high engagement offering where you know that you might be spending a lot of money, or there might be an engagement that lasts a long period of time, that you're buying that engagement that might last 6 months or a year. So let's say you were building a house and you're going to be stuck with them once you sign that contract for maybe 6 months, a year, 18 months. That you want to make sure that you are doing your best to make sure their job is easy as possible. Whereas if it's a fleeting interaction, then maybe it doesn't matter so much.
It's a slightly different lens of thinking about a 6-star business and 6-star experience. To think about being a 6-star customer. James, you mentioned that your focus when you're engaging, particularly at a significant price point, is to be a 6-star customer. I don't know where I'm going with it. It's just an interesting observation. I think that it's as much on, is there not an obligation, but is there a sense of, I don't know where I'm going with it. I just thought it was an interesting observation about being a 6-star customer.
Well, I mean, let's be clear. Sometimes I don't necessarily care how I might be perceived as a customer, because I'm more so focused on just getting the result I really want. So I'm just like, what I've got stuck in my head is the last time I bought a car, and I went to the dealership, and it was actually the first dealership I went to out of maybe 5 or 6 different ones I emailed or phoned that I ended up buying the car from, because they just didn't beat around the bush. They actually gave me their best price up front, and it turned out to be the best price after interacting with everyone. But I was very clear about what I wanted. And I guess a customer, because I was being clear about what I wanted, maybe not, but I wasn't fussed about how I left the sales rep in terms of my interaction with them. I just really wanted to get the result I wanted, because I knew I was going to have that car for 3 or 5 years, and I wanted to be at a certain price point. Whereas if there was more of a relationship and a rapport, and I knew that the involvement that I did, that the person serving me could build on and then leverage, then that's a little bit different. But it was a fairly transactional type of interaction for that one.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to circle back on, James, you mentioned community when you were talking earlier, and Susanne picked up on that. But there's some, I just wanted to know, when you were talking about community, what you were talking about in terms of being the triple win.
I guess it comes down to, I think that if you're only focusing on yourself and the customer, then you're not thinking big enough. It just comes down to that you can't be so closed off to the fact that what you do and how you work with people impacts people more broadly, helping build a more resilient, prosperous society with what we have. Even if you think about just things like climate change and that type of thing, everything has a ripple effect. And so your ripple effect might just be that you leave people better off, like Susanne was talking about earlier on. But it's just about thinking more broadly and not being so self-centered, or I guess too customer-centric, about thinking a little bit more broadly than that.
And when you think broadly in terms of community, where do you go?
I'm not sure. I think the example that Susanne gave earlier about that fashion company and the way that they engage their type of customer, and they use that to bring it full circle to make sure that they are really delivering a much better product or service. And I don't know what with the materials they're using are sort of responsibly sourced and things like that. Like it goes out as far as that, but I guess it's just not being narrow-minded.
So, James, I can sort of expand on that example. For me, that community isn't just limited to the people who use those products. So in terms of their impact, yes, they're Australian manufacturers. So all the labour is sourced from around the Gold Coast area. And then another example of that broader impact on the community and society at large is they got incensed during Australian Fashion Week and went out and did all sorts of media and everything because they did not see size inclusive models. And what they know from their client base is what are the size of the customers who are generally out there, and that what was being represented in the media and the fashion industry was not reflective of the community at large. So they actually went out and did a whole range of advocacy, because although that, it wasn't specific to their business, it was just because they felt that was the right thing to do, and it's what the community more broadly would expect, and they were in a position to have a voice. So they used.
And I think trying to focus on the benefit to community, just in that focusing on the benefit as opposed to ensuring that there's a certain perception of your business to the community. I see anywhere on social media, you always see companies, particularly when COVID kicked off, companies showing that we care and we're doing this for you and we're doing that for you, and just spending money on adverts to put their brand in front of you and show that they can. I remember back to the sort of the hotel game, maybe 10, 15 years ago, it was really prevalent in the industry, something called greenwashing, which is you not being environmentally friendly, but you doing everything you possibly could to give that perception, because that was sort of the hot button topic sort of late 2000s, even though it's sort of just as important as it's ever been. And so I guess just putting out this image about what you're trying to do as your engagement with the communities is not enough. It needs to be, if you feel it's fit and appropriate for you to take a stand on something because it's relevant to you, the people in your business, and the way that you like to, or maybe your target market, then that's all good and well. I'm not about going and giving your voice to something just for the sake of it. It needs to sort of resonate and have some value for you and for your clients.
So in this space, it's really interesting to see the rise of accreditation to confirm whether you really are a for-purpose organisation. So there are actually processes now that businesses can go through and get a certification to actually confirm that behaving in these sorts of ways. So I wonder if that is a step in the direction of like almost a minimum expectation for a six-star business, if you are talking about that triple type of looking at client, provider and community, that how do you actually know that someone genuinely is doing those broader things for the community, not just because it's part of their fancy marketing campaign.
But is that not being part of the marketing campaign though, to go and do the accreditation so people can do it? So it's yeah. I guess goes full circle.
It comes down to trust, doesn't it? This whole thing of trust and whether people actually trust businesses or can trust them.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned trust there, because I was about to say exactly the same thing, but specifically in terms of trusting the accreditations. A couple of weeks ago, I watched Seaspiracy on Netflix. I know I've seen that. I don't know, James and Susanne, if you have. And one of the things they're talking about there is that one of the largest accreditation, Dolphin Safe, you look on Tins of Tuna, it says Dolphin Safe or whatever, is owned by, when you actually look at all the kind of web of relationships and stuff, it's basically companies can get the Dolphin Safe accreditation by paying a lot of money to the top organization. So that trust there you're talking about, Susanne, is vitally important if we're going to go down the kind of accreditation and affirmation route.
So we had something similar in Australia with the Heart Foundation tick. There was a big scandal about that a number of years ago. Yeah,
I remember that. Yes, and there was a number of products that were sort of talked about as being don't buy them or don't listen to the tick because they just paid for the tick. And then there were some products, I know a couple of brands, that actually stopped paying the Heart Foundation because it was a scam. So they didn't want to be associated with that mistrusting accredited label brand.
Were you going to add something?
Oh, just with that Dolphin Safe thing, not only was that what you said, but also when it came to when they asked the company that gave the Dolphin Safe tick, can you affirm or confirm that it is Dolphin Safe? Can you give us the assurance? And the answer was repeatedly, no, there's no way to 100% confirm that it is dolphin safe. And it's like, well, why is it even on the can? Well, we're telling you it's dolphin safe, but you've just said you can't. So there's no confidence in the actual accreditation. Yeah. So from a business perspective, is it a marketing ploy to sound better to the community? And if so, is there another way to ensure that we are focusing on the community in an integral and real way?
I think there are two aspects to community that have come up during this conversation. One that I'm getting from James is that there's community in general, so to speak, a body of people that exist outside of the company and kind of extending beyond the customer interactions that company has. And the community that I hear Susanne talking about is a community specifically created by a company to connect all of their customers together. And I'm wondering if that is the kind of community which addresses some of the things that we've just been speaking about in terms of trust and whatever, because there's transparency in that kind of community. And it's not just about the relationship between the company and the customer, it's also about the web of connections and thereby trust that is then existing between the customers themselves in that community. I don't know, what do people think?
I know when something in that sort of a community, when something happens, people are looking very closely at how that business responds. And your reputation is everything in that circumstance. And social media is so uncontrolled that businesses need to get onto that very quickly and not try and cover things up. So if they've made a mistake or done something wrong, they need to be really upfront and honest about it and really engage with that community to rebuild that trust if it's been lost, or to maintain that trust if it's at risk of being damaged.
Yeah. I think we expect authenticity and vulnerability, don't we? Especially from a business in that scenario.
And if you got it wrong, you need to be upfront about that and admit it, but not say it just because people expect you to say it. So what comes to mind is some of the things that we saw in America with Black Lives Matter, and obviously a significant raising of consciousness around the importance of basically white people being allies and white businesses, behaving in a different way. And I think we saw a real mix of some very genuine and heart coming forward and realizing that they needed to be much more proactive allies in that space. And then other businesses where it was very clearly a marketing ploy because it's what the general community expected them to do.
So does a 6-star business need to have an aspect of not only focus on the community, as in their immediate community of their customers and who they impact outside of that perhaps, and do they need to be active in that, continuing facilitating that relationship with the community? Is that mandatory for a 6-star business?
They certainly have to be in touch with what are the issues that are important to community, how are community expectations changing. And even if you look at COVID, pre-COVID, there were a whole range of businesses that were very much profit first. And I know we talked about, people came out and said, oh, we care. But where you really saw the difference were those companies that didn't have to go and do a whole heap of marketing, but it was what did they do to actually support their staff and in turn their communities by actually not putting profit first and focusing on how they looked after their staff and the ripple effect that James was talking about on communities at large.
I don't think there's a benchmark that you can apply. I don't think there's ever going to be a hard and fast rule of thumb, because when you're talking about 6-star businesses, are you talking about a business with 500 employees strong, or are you talking about a husband and wife team that are delivering that level of service? I think Susanne touched on it. It's about them engaging and acting as appropriate with what is community for when the situation arises. I think it goes back to what I was saying early on about being adaptable. You might have the normal way that you do things, your systematic way of how you approach business, but having that ability to be agile, to go and go, we can do this, why not? There's no reason why we can't, and step out of your comfort zone and go down this path because you feel that it's going to deliver better value for people in whatever that form that comes.
I think to me, a 6-star business is a business who does it because it's the right thing to do, not because it's great marketing.
Right. So it's an intention or a value.
Yeah.
Or a principle. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not about how they'll look to the broader community. It's about that's what the customer needs. That's what is of benefit to the broader community. And it's in touch with what's going on in the world.
I hear what you say, James, about that it's difficult to be black and white when just the very word business does range from not even mom and pop. Like 20-year-old in his mum's basement can be a business, and you've got 500,000 employee strong companies. But I do wonder whether there are things which are, whether you call them mandatory, they are pillars of a 6-star business. And I know one that came up on a recent conversation is purpose, that we asked a direct question that can a business be 6-star without being purpose driven? And just categorically the answer was no. There has to be a strong purpose behind the organization. I'm wondering whether community is part of it as well. And where my mind went while we were just talking there is Amazon has come up on a couple of conversations on this podcast. And where I went to, though, was thinking about the community that exists. Like when you go to buy a product on Amazon, not only have you got the reviews, you've also got the questions and answers that people are asking about the product. So in a sense, Amazon has created a community of buyers and made it possible for them to connect and interact with each other. And I'm just wondering whether that is actually possible for any kind of business, whether you are a solopreneur or whether you've got 5,000 employees, and B, if it is it one of the central pillars of a 6-star business?
I think it depends on how well resourced you are, because there's such a sliding scale there. I mean, you were talking about the range of the size of business and the free resources that you have to throw at problem, depending on where they sit for you in terms of the priority for your business. You know, it's just so dramatically different. But going back onto what you're saying about, well, purpose is one of the cores of a 6-star business. And I think something that is just as important really is commitment. And what exactly that commitment is, well, that is going to vary for every single business. So you talk about purpose, you talk about values, but then what degree of commitment you have. And if you're talking about a business who isn't a 6-star business, then they lack that commitment to really delivering on whatever promise they've put out to the world. Whereas when you have a true 6-star business, you're talking about one that will just go above and beyond because that's the commitment. They've got that internal integrity to how they're going to do things. And even if the business has made a decision to commit to delivering a certain level to a customer, and the customer may not know exactly what that end result is going to be, and the business realizes that they're not going to be able to meet it, them having integrity to their self to actually go above and beyond to deliver it, even though the customer may not have known otherwise. I think that's what it comes back down to, delivering on that promise, even if no one else notices the difference.
Yeah. Yeah. And having that internal integrity to deliver on the promise because of who you are and what you believe is important.
Commitment to what specifically?
Well, your values. I mean, but let's go back to you said purpose before. Having a purpose is one thing, but being committed to your purpose is another.
It also depends if there's an alignment, if your values are aligned to a purpose. Because brings to mind some of the issues, for example, around Uber and psychological safety and some of their values and how their values inadvertently let people behave in a way which created a very unsafe environment for people in terms of being prepared to speak up or not experiencing harassment and a whole range of things. So I agree with you about commitment, James, but those values also need to have some sort of connection to a purpose that is not acceptable, but there is some link back to that sort of broader purpose that's not just about for profit or being number one or growing the fastest or being the best. It's got to be about more than that.
I guess when I think about that sort of things is if people, let's say, have substar standards that they accept in terms of what they try and enroll their team in terms of what their business is trying to aim for. I mean, for me, like, I'll use myself as an example here. I got some lovely testimonial feedback from a customer today, and it was really good for me to see that, because I'm very focused on helping people reduce how much they work in their own business. Now, I don't promise to people that they're going to make more money. I don't go down the path of sales marketing. I'm not focused on that whatsoever. I'm just centric on removing the business owner from the business. And that was one of the key points that he made when he gave me that feedback. And so for me, that was really all I care about. And so in terms of what you're saying, Susanne, when there's things about people's health and safety and things like that, just meeting a minimum benchmark, yes, I completely agree. But it is all dependent on what the purpose of the business is, because if they're being judged on parameters that just don't align with why they're there, then you're never going to get the result from that business that you need, and you're going to feel let down by them. So some people may not. This comes back to sort of the customer perspective that I was talking about earlier on. If there's no alignment, and like you said before, if there's no alignment with what people are desiring from a business, then they're never going to get that sort of 6-star customer experience, because quite frankly, they bought the wrong product or service.
And I think what's coming out for me is it's not just about what the customer experiences, it's what people working in the business experience. Because if we link that back to community, the community is both the people who might receive the service, the people who work in the business, and the community who experiences the ripple effect of that business. So it's got to be a much broader view.
Lots of food for thought. Obviously, we're all taking sips of our whatever it is that we're drinking, contemplating.
Yeah, I really love that, and Susanne, and how you've put that, because it really is. I feel like a 6-star business owner has the responsibility of considering all those layers. And yes, they can focus on the training and the development of their staff. They can build a customer journey. They can measure this customer satisfaction through metrics and tools and surveys. But it's that if they don't have an intrinsically motivated and outwardly purpose that's linked to all those factors, to their staff, how they serve people, and then understanding the outward impact of what they do, then their business is not 3-dimensional.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a 2-dimensional business.
Yeah. And going back to what James was saying, like, I absolutely agree with you, James, about the size of businesses that needs to be considered. But with the work that I do, I focus very much on systems and where people sit in a system and how they influence and are affected by that system. So the way I would simply describe that is, it doesn't matter how big or small your business is. It just means you make bigger or smaller ripples in the world around you. So no one's expecting a very, like a solopreneur or a husband and wife business to have massive, big ripple effect on their communities. But every little thing that affects the broader community, businesses do affect that in quite different ways. And it's just being aware of that impact.
I love that. And with one of my 2 eyes on the time, I can't actually think of a better way to wrap that up. Just that sense of responsibility on business owners, whatever size of business you have, to be mindful of the ripple effect that your business and your interaction with your customers has on your community and the communities where your customers are. James, Susanne, do you have any, and Av for that matter, any last thoughts from this conversation?
I think we've really covered over very thoroughly the whole concept of that being like the triple win. Yes, it's all good and well for the business and the customer to have a win, but being able to have a more conscious, broader impact at a proportional level, like Susanne was saying, to what your capabilities are, and just being conscious of the fact of what that ripple effect could be is, at the core of it.
Beautiful. Susanne, have you got any final comments?
I think it just shows that every business exists in a complex system where they need to be really mindful of the interactions between the different parts of that broader system and how things, they could influence things to emerge or could actually be affected by something else. So I think to me, it's just reaffirmed the complexity of the world that we're living in today and that businesses have to operate in.
Yeah. Wow. Well, thank you, James. Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you, Pete. I have absolutely loved this conversation. This is a great pub and this is a great drink that I've got in front of me right now. And I wish we could keep talking. Yeah. But this has certainly given me some food for thought, and I'm sure it's given our listeners a lot to digest as well.
Who's getting the next round in?
I will, that's fine. I'll give yours to you, Pete.
Great. Lots of love to you both, and we'll see you both soon.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
See ya.
That was another stimulating, thought-provoking episode of the Six Star Business Podcast.
Thank you so much for getting this far. Please go ahead, like, subscribe, and give us a comment, review.
A rating, if there was a 6-star, we'd love you to give us a 6-star rating, but so just go as high as you can.
And if you want to continue the conversation with us and all the cool people who've joined us from the podcast, head on over to apply.sixstarbusiness.community.
See you there.